All right, questions are in, and we've got us. I've got my drink. You've got your drink. And we ready?
Let's hit it.
Let's hit it.
Hey, Rob Moroto. We're here for the Q&A show in October 2023 on Photofocus. How's it going up there in Canada, mate?
Doing all right. It's rainy, it's snowy, it's all the things that everybody loves about Canada. And Ron Pepper, how are you?
Doing well. It sounds like you're tired this evening. We always record at night mostly. It sounds like we need to pep you up a little bit.
We do need to pep me up. Pep me up, Pep.
All right. I thought you might catch that one. we have let's see. We have 3 questions we're going to cover this time, and you know what? We'll bring those up as we go. But first, let's thank our sponsor, Photomatics, as we do.
Yes.
And both of us being users, we're pretty good for talking about it.
Well, yes, we're not only users, we're addicts to it. We can't actually survive without it. So for anybody out there that is doing landscape photography, real estate photography, or any other kind of photography which may use HDR photography, like if you're shooting buildings with neon signs, you know what? HDR Soft's Photomatics Pro 7 is a fantastic program to use. And for anyone who doubts me or doubts Ron, just go to, what's the web address?
HDRsoft.com.
And try it out. It's free to download and trial. You just get something that's watermarked, which is all right because at least you were able to try it. And if it works and does what exactly that you want, then you can buy it. And sure. If you want to know how to use it for real estate, well, you know what? I've got a course that you can take to learn how to do that as well. And it's not that bad. There's also a coupon code at the bottom of this podcast. So come on, join me.
Yeah, you know what? It will be one of the ideas for one of our questions that you mentioned, the neon signs. And also, Photomatics has it's not new exactly, but we've been, for some reason, it's much more on my radar now, a server solution. So for companies that want to do massive processing for when maybe their photographers send them in, then you can have the server automatically do that. So, all right. Yes. So let's, check it out. It's the other thing to say is that the trial doesn't expire, just adds the watermarks that you mentioned.
Yep.
So the first question is basically for you because I know that you covered this. I asked you, and I know you covered it. Paul from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I just binged that show.
That is such a great show. Like, there's nothing wrong with. Yeah, no. Terry Crews is amazing.
Yeah, Terry Crews, exactly. Okay, so not as good. My favorite though is when he was President Camacho. Is that right? In Idiocracy.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
I think it was president. He had a whole bunch of names, but the last name was Camacho, and he. He was the.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. No. So the Paul's question though is, he might have heard us last time because I think we talked about this on the roundtable. Is it safe now to upgrade to Mac OS Sonoma?
Aha. And yes. So, all right.
First, why is he asking that?
First of all, why is he asking that? That's a good question. So, anytime that Apple or Adobe makes updates, essentially one has to rely on the compatibility with the other. And sometimes, Sonoma or Mac OS doesn't operate the same way that the previous OS works. And so that will actually crash or make functionality of the Adobe products disappear or break. And so, for example, like one of the... I put out YouTube videos about, how to fix this, how to fix that, whenever something does happen. Like, for my business and on my course, we show how to use droplets. And droplets are essentially little actions that are made into almost like a separate...
Little scripts, right?
Yeah, it's almost like creating a folder script or a actual program. So once you have that, you can just drop photos into it and it will run that action through Photoshop. Now, that droplet, depending on which version of Mac OS you're on, stopped working. And so there's a way to fix that. And for that one, it's pretty simple. You put your files onto it, and then it says this droplet is broken. You should move it to trash, and you say no, and then you go into it again, and you right click it, and you click on open, and then it'll come up. Same message will come up again, but instead this time it'll have the option to open, and so you click on open, and then it opens, and then that fixes that problem.
So it's like some, just for background on that kind of stuff, these big companies, Apple and Adobe and all the other little companies, everyone that makes software does a ton of testing on these things before they go out. So they think they're going to work. That's why they are released.
Yeah.
But then once it's out in the wild, then you're going to find someone that apparently someone didn't test the droplets is maybe the point.
Well,
which is weird. But then it sounds like all it was doing is kind of like reestablishing the path. Like it just got a little. Apple made some little change that they always do these things, and it just got confused and lost. So all you had to do is kind of reset it in a way.
Exactly. So the way that the people at the Apple support team that told me was any kind of self-running program could be malicious, and because of that, Apple by default now stops it. And because it stops those automatically, it's looking for a trigger from you to say, no, this one's safe. And that's why when you open it by yourself intentionally and you force it to open, it's telling Mac that, no, this is safe. I actually want this to run. And that's why it works in that sense.
So I'm going to ask follow-up questions. I'm going to pretend I'm Paul. So was that the only thing you found?
No. So there's another issue where
but you know what? To keep it in the right order, did they fix it, or did you just find the workaround? And then
we kind of found a way to fix it.
Okay, so they didn't release a 0.01 upgrade or anything. Okay.
No, not at all. So the other issue that came up was that we found was in Lightroom, we weren't able to open raw files from Lightroom into Photoshop.
Ooh.
I know, right? We could open it from Bridge, we could open it from the regular Finder window, but we couldn't open it from Lightroom. And so obviously that's problematic. And you know what the solution is? It's the dumbest solution ever, but it actually works. You uninstall Lightroom and Photoshop and then reinstall it. That's it.
That's kind of the first thing you do after you restart your computer, right?
It is, but again, it's just reestablishing that you want this. You actually, it's like this. It's like you've got kids, right?
Yep.
Okay, so it's like when you're in the car and your kid asks, "Hey, can I play with the radio?" It's like, "Yeah, sure, okay," and you give them that permission. Next, you go into somebody else's car and they start playing with the radio. It's like, no, you don't have permission to play with the radio here. This is the new car. This is not your car, right?
All right, good analogy.
So it has to reestablish those permissions again. And so just by having them go out and come back in and then reestablishing that permission, now you've established what they are allowed and not allowed to do.
Father, please reestablish permission.
Right?
Always cracks me up when my little one calls me father. I'm like, what?
Oh my God, I've got it so that it's like, if you want to ask me for anything, like my kids are still young, so it's still cute. I say, you have to start off with, "Oh, handsome, loving father."
Yeah.
Start off with that, and you're more likely to get a yes than you are by saying, "Dad."
Right. Lord, King, Reverend, Dr. Moroto.
Yeah,
father.
Exactly. Yeah, I like the loving, handsome father one. That's I'm going to get that made into a t-shirt one day.
So it's going to be a competition for the one that gets the thing is going to be the one that gives the best compliments.
Exactly.
Okay.
That child will be able to play with the radio.
Okay. All right. Well, so it's so really the answer is that it's safe to upgrade, but you do need to do these workarounds. You will come up still with workarounds. So I guess what I was wondering is, I have not upgraded yet because we both give this advice commonly, is when something new comes out, a new version of something comes out, don't just automatically upgrade it.
No.
That's if you're, say you're, hey,
well, if your livelihood depends on it, I was going to say life, but no, your livelihood depends on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're talking to photographers. So if you depend on that computer only, then certainly wait for sure. But maybe you have maybe you have a little studio with various computers and you upgrade one of them. I encourage that, but you might not be able to produce That's entirely possible anytime there's an upgrade like that. So
exactly.
Like I guess it was Alex Lindsay that when I was listening to podcasts and not hosting them, he was one of them that I always got advice from, and he always said that he's wait for that. Like if it's a version 7, wait for it's usually not going to be 7.1. It's going to be 7.0.1 because all they did was fix the bugs that got found when they released it into the wild, and the Rob Morotos of the world said, hey, this is a thing. And so wait for that.
Yeah, and exactly. And you have to understand where I come from and why I do this and I upgrade right away. And it is, it's good content for YouTube. But the other reason for it is I have a staff of photographers that goes out there and shoots. So I have to be the guinea pig that tests everything and finds a fix for everything. I am the support network. And I'm also that for, all the students in my course. So, I want everyone to be up on the newest and greatest technology, but to be able to advise them to be able to do that, I have to be the guinea pig and make sure that it all works so that I can safely say to them, it's like, everyone can upgrade now. And when you upgrade, hey, look, there's this new feature in Photoshop like generative fill, generative expand, the remove tool. Oh my God, the remove tool has been amazing at taking out cameras from the mirrors, right? Or in any reflection. And so all these tools are great, but you got to be careful because that's the trap. Yeah. You're so wanting to get these new tools that you jump on the upgrade wagon way too early.
They sound so cool, and they're marketed to us as if you just do this, click, click, and it's beautiful. Yeah, and it's not always like that.
No, because
hey Rob, what's your YouTube channel?
It is youtube.com/real-estate-photography.
Oh dear, just check the show notes, people.
Right? But it is. So I've gone and I've tested it, and it's good for Photoshop and Lightroom. I don't know if it will do anything for Premiere Pro. I haven't seen anything there, or Illustrator or After Effects or any of the other Adobe products. But I do know for Lightroom and Photoshop, you are pretty safe.
Okay, cool.
And if you're not, then ask us a question at questions@photofocus.com and say, Rob, I did this. It's not working. Are you going to help me out?
And you might not have to wait until the show to get the answer. We could, if it's not, a lot of times you can just reply with if it's a link or like it might be a link to Rob's video.
Whatever it is, just send it to us. If you do have technical questions about stuff like that, send it to me. I think those are fun to answer. Right?
Yeah,
I
Rob,
love puzzles on me.
That YouTube channel is really good. I mean, I like when YouTube suggests to me a new Rob Moroto video because it's at least fun for me to watch you act goofy on there.
Introducing Ron Pepper, my number one fan. Great. All right, let's go to the next question.
Mike from Minnesota Nuts, we call it. He probably doesn't appreciate that. But, what's a good way to get started with wireless flash? I see people getting really creative, but when I try it, I didn't read this very well.
I
see people getting creative,
but okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel for you, Mike. Wireless flash. So, yes. The best way to get started to me is you're not going to like this one.
Uh-oh.
Read the manual.
Oh my God. Really?
Well, because the reason is I'm just going from my experience. I remember trying to do things that I saw other people doing as well. Like I think that's what you always do when you're trying new equipment and stuff. And I just didn't get it yet. And I needed to just practice. My main suggestion is you just try stuff and you make mistakes, but it's going to help so much if you're not wondering what the menu items and stuff mean on the Now, on the other hand, I started with Nikon like SB 900 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And those is a long time ago, and the menus were horrible. Horrible.
Yep.
Now I have these Godox things. I think tons of people are getting those Godox lights of different flash levels. Like the 200 is like I think of it as like twice of a regular strobe, and the menu system is wonderful in comparison. It's not perfect, and I still needed to look up what exactly some things mean, because then I guess my whole point, Mike and Rob for making fun of me, is it removes all those clouds that are confusing us when we're trying to use the darn thing. And it lets you go figure it out by doing it, because to figure out what, like the way lights act, the way strobes act, and then hopefully you're going to use some different modifiers, putting on all the different cool bouncing things and hot soft boxes and whatever. You want to go out and just see what they all do. Get yourself. I'm probably taking yours, but get yourself some kind of a mannequin or something that'll sit for you for hours, so you can see what it does to you. I used to use this. There's a punching bag in the shape of a dude that we used to have at the karate school, and I would use that guy.
Oh, so, yeah. The guy that looks like a Russian
like an armless
mafia guy
with no arms, and it goes on those bags that has a sand or water in the base, and then there's a bag, but you can get the guy. So I would use that. Yeah. And so those are my first thoughts. What do you got? I'm sorry, I was monologuing.
Okay, no, reading the manual. Okay, that's tip 1. Now, here's the thing that I've realized when I was starting with wireless flash is get the gear that has the easiest menu system. So, the biggest thing that I like when I was starting with flash, I was using the Canon speedlights, but before that, I was using Einstein's, Alien Bees Einstein's, and these were you had to plug them in, and there were studio lights.
All manual, right?
All manual, and then that sucked. I was also using these things called Pocket Wizards, and I still do. Do you with the AC3 and
actually, I use those as the trigger.
Oh, really?
Because the current days. Okay, so Rob and I are talking about back in the day when you had those Canon and Nikon mostly, and it was a lot of complicated ways to use it. And now they have those the Godox, and if you have more money, then you get the what's it called? Has Pro in the name. Shoot, it's escaping me. But they're a little bit smaller and probably better build quality and all that. But they all of these come with their own remote that you just put on your hot shoe, and then you can control everything wirelessly from there. Yeah. And that's fantastic. It's kind of the opposite of when I think you too. I got these hand-me-down lights like in about 2000 or something, and they were all old-fashioned because it was a photographer that passed away that somebody knew that I might want to use them. So I have all these old-fashioned manual lights that, you had to plug in, and then you didn't control the light really. They only had a couple of settings. You had to control it with other things like distance and modifiers and camera settings, and you had to meter it. You needed to. It was really a good learning situation. But now you can learn. Just like when we got digital cameras and you could see the results immediately on the back of the camera, you knew roughly what you got if you missed it completely, if you screwed it up. Yeah. So you had instant learning, and you didn't have to wait till later to see what results you got. Just like that, we have that with the flashes now, where you can do all the different channels and each different flash up to a point anyway can all have different settings and all for different uses. So you can light your background, you can light your key light, and you can light your fill light. Everything is there, and it's just amazing. It's so much fun to use. Yeah. So,
no, definitely. Like right now, the stuff that back then was completely antiquated, and today's stuff, I love using Godox. I love the X Pro 2 transmitters, the V860s version 3s are amazing. The version 2s were still on the old menu system, and that was tough to use.
Are those the kind of like your standard hot shoe flashes?
Yeah, they're the ones that look like your regular speed lights.
Yeah, speed light, right.
Yeah, the twos were awful. You can use one of the twos as a transmitter or a receiver, but you couldn't. The menu system was so difficult that it was hard to control the other lights that are out there if you're using that one
I think
as
that's one I
your
have.
as your trigger.
Yeah.
Now the version 3s, the menu system is so easy to use that it takes all the brain work out of it. But so yes, use a manual. Number 2, try and get equipment that is easy to use. Go to your local camera store, talk to them, and say which one of these flashes has the easiest menu. And I'm sure everyone's going to say Godox. Use the version 3 and use the X Pro trigger. But that's part 2, or answer 2. Answer 3. Read through your manual for your camera and find out how the TTL works in it. Because TTL is through the lens metering, and what it'll do is it'll meter your subject and relay that information back to your flash, and essentially automatically tell the flash how strong it needs to fire.
Oh, do you want some trivia? Where
Uh-oh.
you in a second you're going to say
Ron was right.
it's one of my favorite trivias about TTL is that it doesn't tell it how powerful to do it, and I find this amazing. It fires the flash and then stops when it has enough light.
Really?
I find that completely amazing. Somebody at a conference, we were doing these conference, and I was sitting in the class and learning from the amazing experts, and they were describing that, and it wasn't only me, but other people too were like, "Wait, what? That does?" Because I was the same way. Like, you just figure it, just like it meters, your light meter tells you what shutter speed and stuff you need, right? So why not? But yeah, it actually stops the light when it reaches the point when it has what it's supposed to have.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
I think
nuts.
that's kind of why, I guess anyway, that's why you have to have the TTL equipment for your camera brand. You can't just use the like I have a Nikon TTL Godox.
Yeah.
I can't put it on my Olympus. I can put it on my Olympus, but it's manual.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
So that's kind of a nice side note, but I find that so cool that's how that they did this process. So,
Right. Oh, actually, one thing that I got to say about the Godox, which I really like, and we are not sponsored by
I
Godox,
was just
but
going to
if,
say that.
but if Godox would like to sponsor us,
Yeah,
we'd be happy to. Here's something interesting about it. So you know that I shoot Canon and I shoot Fuji. So half of my Godox V860s are Fuji, and half of them are Canon. And what's cool about it is that I can, as long as I have the Canon one mounted to my Canon camera, it doesn't matter which other flash I have out there. I can use all my flashes, regardless of if it's Fuji or Canon, and trigger it from my Canon.
So you're talking about the TTL again, right?
The TTL,
so the only thing, are you saying the only thing that matters is the control, not the actual flashes?
Yes,
Because that makes
So
sense.
Yeah, my receivers can be any brand out there,
Yeah.
sorry,
The flashes, the strobes.
they're- yeah, they're all Godox. They're all Godox flashes, but it's like the Godox made for Canon, the Godox made for Sony, the Godox made for
Yeah,
Fuji.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. Because as long as the one that's on my camera is matched with the camera brand, then it'll fire them. And so I find that amazing.
And attached to your camera can either be just a remote, like that's what I do. I just have a little, quite little, sharp, nice little piece of a remote on there, or you can put the one of the flashes that can control the other ones. So either way, that thing is, you're saying that's the only thing that has to be.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
So-
I think I remember that, ordering them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could get one more remote for my Olympus, and then everything would work. Why haven't I done that?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I really
So-
don't use it with this one. But I
Right?
could.
So that's 3. Let's see now. Read the manual for the flash. Get flashes that have good menus. 3. Read the manual for your camera. And now the last part is going to be understand how power on a flash works. This is one thing that I've always found fascinating. I had somebody come up to me and they said, "What's this? What is this 1/16th
Yeah.
setting on the flash?"
That's a good reason to use the old-fashioned pre-electronics versions because you have to learn all that.
Right.
There is math involved.
Exactly. So essentially, what it is, it's all fractions. So 1/1, it means 1/1 is the most powerful, right?
Yeah.
And then half that power is 1/2. Half of that is 1/4. Half of that is 1/8. And so on, all the way down to. And most flashes will go down to
1/28, I think.
1/28.
Yeah.
And power, which is pretty good. You got a nice range there.
But then you got to know that if you're using a little camera mounted strobe, the regular one, that's less powerful. So if you have a 600 watt standing there, your 1/28th on your 600 watt power Mongo is going to take care of most things.
Yeah.
Where the other littler one, you have it on full power and they're running out of battery.
Exactly.
Sorry, I took your.
No, but that's exactly it. It is the size of the flash matters, because if you have a flash that's twice as strong at half power, it'll be the same as being full power on the one that's half as strong. Yeah. Now, the way that I was describing this to a friend of mine was I said, okay, imagine this. You have a dog, and you need to wash this dog. Okay? If you're 1 foot away from your dog and you've got the hose on, you probably only need it around, turned on for around a quarter of the power. Right? But if you move away from the dog, you're going to have to turn the power of that hose up to maybe 1/2 of the full power. And if you go even further, you might have to turn it up to like full power just for the hose to reach the dog.
And if you do it wrong, you blast the dog and it gets mad at you.
Right. It gets too wet. Right? Now, that is based on your dog being however far it is from you and the power of the water coming out of the hose. Now, if all of a sudden somebody comes up with a fire truck and says, hey, I've got the hose from the fire truck that can do 500 gallons a minute. Well, if you turn that on at full power, really close to your dog, you're going to kill your dog, right? So the size of the hose, the power of the water. Okay, so that's all. This whole analogy, it makes sense now, right? That's like the flash as well. So if you understand that, then everything else should start falling into place, right?
Yeah.
Then all the diffusers, the grids, the egg boxes, the strip lights and hair lights.
It's a rabbit hole. It's a rabbit hole.
It's so much fun.
I was going to say another one would be to go ahead and get a light meter, not because these days you can do it trial and error, but it also is it's really, I find it very satisfying to, like if I have somebody, like let's just say I'm doing a portrait.
Yeah.
And I take a meter reading on one side of the face, I take a meter reading on the other side of the face, and then I set them, and I take one shot, and hey, the portrait might not be great, but the lighting's perfect. So like that's kind of satisfying. Like it really shows you how all that's working, even though these days we kind of do it trial and error, right? Like let's say you have a client and you set up, so you just set your lights up and maybe get in there yourself just to make sure that you're right. And that's fine. But I really do like using the light meter, and that's an old fashioned piece of equipment that looks old and makes you look like an old timer photographer.
But it also makes you look professional. I remember,
yeah.
I remember I was at a shoot once, and there was me and another photographer, and I saw the other photographer, and he's going around with his light meter in one hand, and it looks like he's clicking it, and on the other hand, he's on his phone. And I'm looking at him thinking, what the heck are you doing? And the client's there. And,
is he taking meter readings all over the room?
Yeah, and I thought, what is he doing?
He's firing it from his phone, and he's taking the reading, right?
No. So I asked him afterwards, and I said, what are you doing? Well, I had a few emails that I had to respond to, but I didn't want to look like I was just slacking off and responding to emails. So I walked around with my with my light meter to make it look like I was trying to take notes on something.
Nice. I like it.
That was a good one, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Now, before we jump into question number 4, let's talk about Lori. And Lori Novak has been a guest on this show a couple times now. But what a lot of people might not know is that aside from being an amazing photographer, she is also the moderator at the Photofocus community. All right. Now, we've had a lot of people say to us, it's like, okay, I want to put my photos online, but, there's so many trolls on social media, and I don't know. I hate social media, right?
Yeah.
And
can be toxic
yes,
sometimes,
if you really want to destroy your self-confidence and self-esteem, put your photos on Reddit and say, what's wrong with my photo, right? That
even on Facebook sometimes. They're just...
Right, Facebook, Instagram, any of the social medias. But if you want a community where there's actually a good community, try out the Photofocus community. It is oh my god, I really should know this by now. It is community.photofocus.com. Go on there, ask to join, and you'll join in, and it's all other photographers that are like-minded that just want to share photos or have, constructive criticism on there. And if you
they do events webinars and open talks and group discussions and things too. So yeah.
And if you have anything that if there are people that are being rude or nasty or just not nice, they get booted. So it's a safe place for you to go and talk to other photographers, get to know other photographers, try a few things, learn a few things. It's great there. So yes, there is that. Go to community.photofocus.com, join, and feel free to add your stuff there. I'd love to see your photos there.
Well said. Yeah, that's perfect.
And tell them that Rob and Ron sent you.
That's right.
Okay.
That's for people who spend time at their computer when they don't have to. And that's the reason I'm not... I've been in there sometimes, but I'm not regular, because if I'm at the computer, I have to be doing something. So I'm kind of jumpy, and I'd much rather be out trying something new. And these days I'm flying over areas and getting new footage and stuff, because I finally got up to date on the so I had a drone for a while, but it was a terrible camera, and now I have a pretty decent one. So it's really been fantastic. Good. Well, I think we're probably going to have our drone episode on the roundtable soon, because I know Dave Wilson wanted to do that, and
really?
Colin Smith and some of these big drone operator guys.
Okay, sure.
So we can ask questions, and I'm hoping to be competitive with them.
Yes. So if you have any questions about drone photography that you would like to ask, be sure to send it to us at questions@photofocus.com.
Yes.
And just like that, let's talk about Les, who sent us a question through questions@photofocus.com. And his question is, what can I do to get a neon sign to look good in photos? Yeah, ask it to smile.
Never say smile.
Right?
You have to trick it into smiling.
Right.
Yeah, neon signs. Okay, so that's this reminds me of when I was taking pictures of all of us in family with lightsabers recently.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the same thing, is that the neon or the lightsaber is so bright that unless you're going to light the rest of your scene with that light, then you're in trouble. So, I've got two things that have already come up in this conversation. One of them you mentioned earlier is HDR is a great way to solve this, because that's the whole point for anybody that doesn't know. You take a series of photos at different shutter speeds to capture the bright areas correctly, and that means that the dark areas are completely not there. And then the other way around, capture the dark areas, which means your bright, like the neon, will be just nothing.
Yep.
And then the HDR software helps you put that together. And I have one more, but go ahead if you have a...
Well, so if you are shooting on an SLR, not on your phone, then because quite frankly,
the phone is going to have trouble with it.
Yeah. No, it's not. I'm amazed. The
really?
the iPhone I did it on an iPhone 13.
Rob, it's not too late to go to a bar with a neon sign and take some shots. It's only, I mean, as we're recording this, it's only 10:10.
Yeah, I live on Vancouver Island in a retirement community. Everyone's been asleep for 3 hours now.
Oh, retirement community? You're
It is
younger
a
than me.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I'm not here because of me. I'm here because of my wife's parents are here.
Oh, okay.
Anyways,
I'm not even old enough for that yet. Close, but not quite.
right? It's scary. But the interesting thing about yes, your phone actually has HDR built into it. Like the iPhones have HDR built into it, so it can capture it pretty good.
Yeah.
But if you're on a DSLR, like I did this with my Fuji, which worked out really, really well. I have a friend of mine who has this amazing Japanese restaurant called Bar Bincho in Calgary. And if anyone's listening here that is from Calgary, Alberta, and has never had good omakase sushi, which means like chef's choice sushi, go to Bar Bincho. It's fantastic. It's on Fourth Street there.
Do they make it? Do they do a good okonomiyaki there?
No, they don't.
Oh, come on.
No.
It's crazy.
Not that kind of restaurant.
It's so hard to find in the U.S., but it's just everywhere. It's like everyday, like
Oh yeah, in
poor
Japan.
man's food everywhere in Japan. It's the best thing.
Right? But
Sorry.
yeah,
I digress.
So they have a wall that has a neon sign, and it's beautiful. The hardest thing to do is to decide what to prioritize in your shot. Do you prioritize for the highlights and the whites, or do you prioritize for the shadows? And this is where looking in your histogram really, really helps. And you meter it so that you, on the right side of the histogram, you're not peaking, and on the left side of the histogram, you're not peaking. It doesn't matter where in between you are, because later, what I did was I pulled that into Lightroom, pulled down my highlights, pulled down my whites, and that brought back all the color from the neon, and then pushed up the shadows and blacks to the point where I could see where all the shadows were. So essentially, it is doing HDR, but from one shot, and you were compressing the shot in Lightroom and using the full dynamic range of the sensor of your camera to get that final image.
Well, I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be not common that I'm thinking of a dark bar with a bright neon, and I don't think a single shot's going to do it. I don't think even HDR, as good as it is in the iPhone, would be enough either, because that's really bright. Like when I was doing the lightsabers, which is probably less bright than neon, I think, and I had to, with a single shot anyway, I had to get move the lightsaber close enough to the person's face that it could light the person, and I still had to overexpose a little bit the saber, and then I had to cheat and bring it back in just a editing fake way to bring the green color, in that case, back, and that was with one shot on a the D850 with good dynamic range in one shot. So I think it's pretty rare that you'd be able to get enough out of that, but that doesn't mean that a lot of situations wouldn't work. But I was going to say is you might use our other thing we talked about. So you would, with the camera, expose for the neon, and then you're going to need some lights to light up whatever other subject you want in there. If that's the case, I mean, if it's just a neon sign, you can expose for the neon sign less, and it'll be fine. You'll see the neon sign; it'll be very pretty. It's probably brighter than you think, so you might, on your first try, you might overexpose it, or wait, yeah. But if you try a couple of them, it should work. But if you want to have any other, like people or something, again, I'm just thinking of the bar. If you're going to have somebody sipping on some whiskeys off to in the background or foreground or something, you're probably going to need to light them. That's kind of the main thing. So you can use all the stuff we talked about on the show and make one shot with the neon and the lighting.
And another one is timing. If you're able to get it just right after sunset while it's still bright enough, you can actually get it so that as the ambient light starts going down, you're getting it at the right moment where the neon light is not as bright to overpower the scene too much. that you could get the shot. So I'm thinking now of the neon lights on the outside of a building, right? Get it just so that just after sunset, and just time it so that it gets dark enough, just that perfect point.
Yeah, if you can plan your shot, then that would, yeah, you're right. That would be the other one, and that's a luxury, isn't it? Though you're probably gonna, if you're really planning a shot, you might as well bring in the lights and do it that way. But you're right. Yeah, you could kind of like doing a twilight shot, right? Wait for the right moment where everything just lines up just right.
Exactly. I had a friend of mine that did wildlife, and he looked at me and said, "You don't know how lucky you are that you can choose when you want to go, and when you get to the shoot, you can move whatever you want. You don't have to wait for anything, and you can just shoot whenever, however you want." And I thought, you're right. It is kind of a luxury. It is kind of nice, because here I am thinking about this guy who's been sitting in a blind for 3 days trying to get a shot of a bear that never came.
Right. Oh, if you could plan for the bear when you know they're coming.
Right. It's like, I want the bear right there. I want it to catch the salmon in its mouth as it's jumping out of the stream, right? And the eagle is there, flying in the background.
Nice.
Right.
That's like, you gotta have a higher power to plan that.
Right. Or generative AI.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's true. It's gonna take all the need for waiting 2 days for the right moment, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
Hey,
the eagle's still gonna have like 5 wings, but that'll be all right.
Before we go, I've been wanting to try something like this. Surprise, a pop quiz.
Uh-oh. No pop quizzes.
I'll do it in a very fair way, because I haven't looked at, somebody sent me this as an idea. Hey, you guys should do something like this. I have not looked at the answers.
Okay.
And I'll tell you ahead of time if I think I know or not. So, like, just for fun, I think you'll find this fun.
Okay.
I do not.
Are we going to have quiz music?
When I played the music last time live, it sounded really odd, and so I'm going to add it later.
Okay.
So yes, I'm playing the music now.
There he is.
It sounded
quiz
bad.
Music.
So quiz music. Okay, I don't know the answer to this.
Okay.
What was Ansel Adams' middle name? A. Aaron. B. Orson. C. Easton. D. Irving.
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, me either. I'm gonna go down.
I'll say Irving.
I was gonna say Orson, so it was C. What was that? Easton.
Easton.
Oh, like, is that where Easton? No, Kodak. Okay, I'm thinking out loud. And this is not live, but I'm not going to cut dumb things I say out. So if I say something dumb, it's there. Well, the next one we don't even need to bother with. What is meant by the term HDR?
Okay, well that's
if you don't know that, yeah. Okay, what camera? I do not know this, but I have a guess. What camera was used by the astronauts to capture the first photos of the moon? Hasselblad, Minolta, Leica, Mamiya.
I want to just guess Leica.
That was my first thing, but then I thought I'm going to go Minolta. So let's see, B and C. Let me see. Oh wait, I didn't really plan this very well. That's number 4. I got to scroll down. Let's see. It's A, which was what?
I don't remember.
Scroll. Hasselblad.
Hasselblad.
Huh. In hindsight, that's obvious. Andreas Gursky's Rain 2, or Rain the Second, became the most expensive photograph ever sold when it was auctioned at Christie's on November 8th, 2011. How much did the winning bidder pay for it?
Oh, that's the one where it's just a green field and a road. Isn't it?
Don't know for sure. The answers are about 2 million, 2.5 million, a little over 3 million, and 4 million. So it's just kind of guess a million. I have no idea.
No, I don't. Sorry, the 12 million was the NFT one, right? And then I'm not sure. Now I got to Google this. What was his name again?
It's 3 million 2. Andreas Gursky. Rain 2, RHEIN 2, like the second.
Gursky, Andreas Gursky. There it is. And works. I want to. Yes, I remember this guy. I just want to see what the painting was.
It's in Wikipedia. It's just a simple. Wow. Grass and like a.
Yeah, it's the grass and green, the road and.
Wow.
Yes.
Check it out, people. Well, I can put the Wikipedia article in. So then let me just ask you an easy one. Let's see.
But I gotta say,
which of the following is not a tripod manufacturer? Manfrotto, Gitzo, Really Right Stuff, and Grip-On. That's an easy one.
Grip-On just sounds so bad.
It's like a trick question they put in there. All right. Well, I thought that would be kind of funny to see if you knew some of them that I didn't. But okay. How was the first aerial photo taken and it was in 1858?
Blimp.
By attaching a camera to a hot air balloon, attaching to a bird, a kite, or a rocket.
Balloon.
I think so, right? The hot air balloon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oops, it reloaded on me. Answer is hot air balloon. We both got it. All right, let's end on that.
Can you imagine taking a camera from the 1800s and strapping it to a bird?
Yeah, they always have to have one silly answer in there. It's like going to the DMV or your Part 107 test because they put some silly question in there just to trick you out.
God, you need an albatross to be able to lift that thing.
All right, well, with that, let's tell people where to find you. You know what? I'll go first because I always forget. Yeah, we're all done. I know.
All
just
right.
we've been here 48 minutes.
Jeez.
So my name is Ron Pepper. I know I always forget to say that, and you can stop emailing about it. RonPepper.com, Bay Area photographer, and not promoting anything. Just like send people in the Bay Area my way. That's about it. And Rob Moroto. Oh, you can find me rpepper on Instagram. How about that?
Sounds good. And you can find me at Rob Moroto on Instagram, and you can also find me at www.robmoroto.com, and there you can also find my online real estate photography course. I'd love for you to join on, and if you use the coupon code Photofocus, you will get a nice little discount there. And like I said, we love having the community and talking with people, and I'm always there for support, and it's been a lot of fun.
You're building that community. That could be one of those where you find those communities that start out around one thing and it becomes an important thing. I think it's awesome. I mean, it doesn't have to be photography.
It's just a whole lot of fun.
It makes it more fun because a lot of us are in these one-person show businesses. Mm-hmm. Rob's not really, but those of us that are, it's great to have that community, I think. So
yeah, and
check out
somebody that you can talk to and say, hey, what's wrong with this? How do I do this? Right? So.
Oh, and I love it when I can go, hey, Rob, how do I handle this?
Yeah.
Exactly. Check out Rob's course. Check out the Photofocus community. Check out Photomatics for high dynamic range solution. And check us out in a couple weeks for the roundtable.
Exactly.
And with that, play us out.
Send us more questions.
Adios.
I always wanted to end off with saying something like toodles.